What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the BizDad Podcast. Today, I am really looking forward to having a good conversation with Jon Brooks, a fellow new transplant Floridian here. I don't know how new, but we'll find out. Here to Jacksonville. Looking forward to having a conversation with you, Jon. If you can, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your family and tell us about your business.
Yeah, my name is Jon Brooks. I'm 34 years old. I've been married for 8 years to my wife, Brittany. We have 3 kids, Evelyn, who's 6, Jackson, who's 4, and Mason, who is 2. And we own real estate in Jacksonville, a real estate brokerage, a title company, a mortgage branch, and a property management division. And we also give loans to realtors to do fix and flip. So we're basically entrenched in real estate. We love what we do. We like helping agents make more money so they can support their families, which is a really important thing, especially right now since we're going through a little bit of a boom bust cycle here in Florida specifically. It's not hitting the entire country, but Florida is having its challenges. But we do everything we can to support our people so they can support their families.
Welcome to the BizDad Podcast, where we dive into the melding of fathership and entrepreneurship with your host, the original BizDad himself, Adam Labar. Adam is a Christian, a former Air Force officer, a dad to 3 amazing kids, a coach, a real estate investor, and a business owner. On this podcast, he'll explore the unique journeys of amazing dads who are striving for greatness in both business and family. So whether you're a dad who is an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a man striving to be a better dad, get ready as the BizDad brings you conversations to inspire, challenge, and equip you to be a better dad and entrepreneur. And now, here's Adam.
It's an interesting market here in Florida with everything that's been going on since COVID. People coming in, people coming out, changes here, changes there. Like, what are we going to do? How do we affect all these massive amounts of people? And it's just been excuse me, it's been interesting to watch. So, how long have you lived here in Florida?
I've been here since 2014, so just over a decade.
Okay, wow. Okay, so it's been a while then. All right. So I want to rewind a little bit because I always like to go back in history a little bit, kind of understand who Jon was growing up, who you were as a kiddo. Tell me a little bit about what it was like for you growing up, especially understanding who your dad was and maybe still is to you. So let's go down that path a little bit.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. My dad is still alive and actually saw him last night. We have a great relationship. And he, my mom was a stay-at-home mom and my dad worked in the government at the EPA as a microbiologist. So we lived in one income household right outside of Washington, D.C., in a very expensive place. But we were fortunate to be in a really good school district that had a lot of great connections. We weren't poor by any means, but I would say we're probably solid middle class. Other people around us, though, were way further beyond. My parents actually bought real estate for $200,000 and it just appreciated like crazy, which was what they used to help subsidize, my brothers and me with our college education later on. But yeah, so I have 2 older brothers, which was awesome to learn from them. My dad was always around, always there, and was just complete support the entire time. It was a laissez-faire household growing up. We could literally do whatever we wanted and have whoever we want over at any time, basically. And as long as we didn't rub my parents the wrong way, I mean, if you cross the line, you cross the line, and it's going to get very serious. But most of the time, we played within the gutters that they had set up, and I got in trouble a lot when they did a heavy correction on that. And so did my brothers. But, that's just part of being a teenager with a lot of testosterone going through you. But life growing up was phenomenal. Had a really great experience just because my parents were so involved in taking care of us, even though they had a laissez-faire type of household. What I mean by that is people could come in and out of that. I know there's some parents out there that are very strict on their schedules and everything like that. We could have anybody over and play any game we wanted, and we could go out basically whenever we wanted to, which was, I think, very unique, and it gave us a lot of freedom. And I think that's why it led me and my brothers to be pretty entrepreneurial.
Hey, everybody, wanted to step in to discuss something. If you're anything like me, you've ran into some time in your business where you feel a little overwhelmed with some of the mundane tasks that eat up your valuable time. You're working more in the business than you are on the business, right? If that's you and you're hearing this and you're saying, boy, it is time to reclaim some of my schedule back, to focus on what truly matters. You want to get time back with elite remote talent with zero time zone hassle. Check out one of my partners that I just recently partnered up with, BizDad&x.com/Adam is where you go to check these folks out. Delegate $10 an hour tasks to focus more on the $1,000 an hour tasks, the things that are really transforming your business. Get rid of some of those transactional things and do some more of the transformational inside of your business. So again, schedule your free strategy call at wisevas.com/Adam. Wise, WISEVAS.com/Adam. Again, let's get rid of some of those transactional tasks and move them into transformational tasks. It's been a phenomenal team to work with. I really look forward to sharing them with you. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to discuss with you what's going on as well. But again, wisevas.com/Adam. Thank you very much. And now back to the episode. I was always gone, never home. People coming in and out of the house. I mean, the amount of our friends that would call my mom and dad, especially my mom. Everybody it was always mom for everybody, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, I've got you by, I don't know, 6 years. So usually that's a rarity for somebody, even my age, to say that I was able to do, let alone somebody younger than me being able to say that they were able to kind of run around and do all of that. So, you know, how would you look at that, looking back at it, that level of freedom that you had? Did it feel normal to you? Were all of the other kids in your area able to do that? Or was it just kind of you?
Not all the other kids were able to do that. So it was kind of like our household would be the place where everybody would come and congregate and have a good time. And there weren't very many rules and that type of stuff. So I think it was a place that home felt like a place that's like a lot of fun, which creates like a really positive environment. Now, it wasn't fun all of the time. Of course, every family has their issues, but for the majority of time, everybody, I think it makes a big difference. And we try to replicate that with our children today, you know, kind of letting them explore and do what they want to do without trying to control them too much. I think, you know, I watch other parents, they're just absolute control nuts, like absolutely nuts. I think that's really damaging to the kid and developing themselves. So we're very careful not to do that and give the freedom that we had growing up to our kids and continue that mentality of they're going to figure it out, right? Just let them be themselves and figure it out. And I'm not going to be there to try to correct every single one of their mistakes. They're going to learn from their mistakes themselves. And you gotta let them fail. And I think that's an important part in building their resiliency.
For sure. I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, even before we started recording this, I had my 2-year-old sitting here on my lap. It's like, you know what? Go out there, figure it out. My 10-year-old loves to be able to have that responsibility. And it's like, hey, just, you guys can go figure it out. I'm right here. If something happens, let them go and do it. There's a couple of weeks ago, I came home. I don't remember if I've told the story on the podcast or not, but it was a few weeks ago. I came home from doing something, and my son was like, the neighbor's kid, I got one out in the backyard, and the neighbor's son was over in our yard. I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, yeah, he lost his ball on our roof. And I was like, okay, like, what happened? And he's like, well, I mean, I don't know. He just came over and said that the ball's on the roof. I said, well, did it come down? He's like, yeah. So how'd it happen? He's like, oh, I climbed up on the roof and went and got it for him. And I was like, all right, like, how'd you get up there? You know, because I bring them up, like when I go do Christmas lights or do whatever, they like, can I go to the roof with you? Can I go to the roof with you? Because they love that little sense of adventure, that sense of that fear that comes from climbing on the roof or from climbing the tall trees or building something. And, you know, then he was like, no, I climbed up there. And I was like, well, what did you use? And he was like, so he's telling me all the stuff that he used and how he got up there with the neighbor's kid. I think the neighbor's kid's probably 12, 13, something like that. So a few years older than my son, maybe 14. So it's just funny to think about my 10-year-old just climbing up the roof with this 12-year-old neighbor. But I was like, that's exactly what I would have done as a kid. And I want them to go and do those things. And I tell them all the time, I was like, if you can break a bone in your body, it does not necessarily bother me. Just don't bust your head open, right? Like let's preserve the head. If you fall out of the tree and break your arm, it is what it is. Exactly. Let's not have permanent damage, right? So,
I think that example is important. Like letting your kid go on the route, like they don't have to ask for permission. They're smart enough to make that decision for themselves. You know, I think that's really good. Like I think a lot of what I'm noticing, at least in my area, is the parents make the kids ask for permission for everything. And so you basically have the parent scrubbing their behavior. And I don't think that you're not always going to be there to scrub their behavior. It's better if they self-regulate than you just try to control them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think there's a line in the sand somewhere, right? Where it's like, okay, as you're really young, let's start asking permission. What can we do? And then we as parents need to realize that as they're growing up, you have to let that go. You know, like the thing that the 2-year-old had to ask permission for, the 6-year-old doesn't. The thing the 6-year-old has to ask permission for, the 10-year-old doesn't. So learn to be a parent that can let them have that independence and learn from it. I would still prefer that my 6-year-old ask if he can pull out a butcher knife to chop up a mango.
Oh, for
right?
Sure.
You know, but my 10-year-old, he can do that, right? Yes, let's have some supervision. You're going to do it. We're going to help you out. I'm going to watch you do it. But I mean, everything nowadays is like, oh, you have to ask to do everything, and there's permission for everything. And you know, my kids know how to jump in and out of the pool by themselves. They don't bring their 2-year-old sister in there without me. You know, and they're wise with that, so they know that. You know, but man, I love it. So as you're kind of growing up, as your kids are growing up, how are you looking at that thought process, right? If the other people around you are doing one thing and you're doing something different, sometimes that causes a little bit of angst amongst, you know, your kids as parents and you and all the stuff. Do you notice anything yet, or are your kids still a little too young to notice that?
They're a little young. I mean, my 6-year-old definitely has play dates and things like that. But I can definitely tell that the kids prefer to come to our house to have fun. I mean, they have fun wherever they go, but you know, I think that they have an extra layer of fun at our house because they're just running around. It's okay to have the chaos. We're not yelling at them to be quiet and stuff like that that we've observed at other houses. So, you know, I think, you know, we just want to be that open door that will be welcoming to people and they can have fun. And, you know, there are semi rules that we have, right? Obviously, like you said, like don't like permanently damage anybody. When we have something called the first ask rule in our house, where it's like, you got to respond to me the first time I ask. Like we're not going to chase you down asking 5 or 6 times for you to do something. And if they don't listen the first time, then there are consequences. So we do have that. And that's just it's a respect thing as well. You know, we want to not have to continually repeat ourselves. It's exhausting. And we also explain to them, you know, you ask us to do things and we listen to you the first time, we expect the same back from you. Now, it's hard to explain that obviously to a 2-year-old, but if the 4-year-old and the 6-year-old definitely get it. And we didn't have that at first. We would have to ask them 5 or 6 times to do something, and then they would do it after a threat or 2. But now, you know, we kind of created a new rule in our household, and then it carries over to school as well. And sometimes they'll ask like, why do I need to do that? And so then it starts a conversation. And I like that line of questioning because it shows to me that they're starting to think independently and want to make decisions for themselves. Like, hey, why is it important to do this or to do that?
Yeah, I have a very similar thought process, but I tell my kids, it's like, you are more than welcome to ask why I'm asking you to do something, as long as you're doing it while asking, right? Like, I've asked you to do it, now go do it. And then as you're doing it, hey, Dad, why are we doing this? Or when it's done, now you can ask me. You don't ask why with your hands folded and then, no, we're not playing that game. Like, you're going to go do it because I told you to do it, and then we'll figure out why. Because sometimes I just need you to do it. How did you kind of work through that? Or I should say, at what age was your oldest when you realized that you needed to have this first ask policy added into your toolbox?
Well, when she went to kindergarten and she almost got kicked out of school, basically for not listening to the teacher, because the teacher, we go to a private Christian school and we love the school that we go to, but one of their core values is obediency and being obedient. And that's doesn't really fit for my family or my wife or I. You know, entrepreneurs, we kind of just want to go do our own thing, and we're okay with our kids sometimes doing their own thing. But there's a line where there's a mutual respect, right? That teacher has taken time to make this their career and to spend time with all these kids, trying to help them to learn certain things. And so, you know, we explain like, hey, you need to listen the first time that they ask you. They've given up a lot to be your teacher and they want to help you grow. Like, you need to respect them when they ask you to do things. And one of the best ways you can do that is to listen the first time that they ask you. And we got that figured out in the first half of kindergarten. And then she was like one of the favorite kids in the second half of kindergarten. She actually started anticipating what was needed to be done ahead of time, and just like starts help cleaning up and all that kind of stuff versus even needing to be asked. But she didn't understand, right? She was just resistant. And once we sat down a couple times and talked about it, it wasn't just one conversation. It was like 5 or 6 conversations over a period of time. she finally figured out, okay, I understand what you're saying, and just took it to heart. And now she's doing awesome in school, which is great to see, because she was rough. They grade kindergartners now, man. It's out of control.
For sure.
You know, she was like a C student, and then by the end of the year, she was an A student, and now she's kicking butt. So, but I can't believe again they're grading these children. It's just
that's not. Do you know what program they use in the Christian school? A lot of them use like Abeka, but I don't know if what you're
not familiar with it. I just know that school's really good, and it's competitive to get in there. There's only like 180. There's 180 students for 80 kids in the class. And each class size is 15 kids. And so that's something that's really important to me. Interestingly, It's not as important to my wife. Like the education, she's like, they can go to public school, they can go to private school, they'll figure themselves out. I'm actually more of, intentional learn. Like I think we should be intentional of where they should go and who they're rubbing elbows with and the influence of that. And so we're really blessed to be in this school and to have access to the teachers that we do have. And we need to respect the fact that we're there and take advantage that we got in one of those few spots.
Yeah. I was always similar to your wife, like, oh no, like I think public school is where it's at. I think, but like for me, it wasn't like they'll figure themselves out wherever they go. For me, it was the exposure I got in public school growing up. I was in a graduating class of like 380 or something like that when I graduated. And I had already been exposed to, name it, like whatever's out there. I was at a party where it was at,
Yes.
And so I was very like what I thought was prepared for when I went into the military, because I joined the military right out of high school. So it was like, all right, I know where to stay away from. I know what's going on. Like public school prepared me for a lot of stuff, blah, blah, blah. My wife grew up going to a private Christian school, and she was like, no, I think we'd prefer private school. And, I was like, oh no, like I just felt like there's no way you're not going to be prepared for life. And then the student started, once I started actually having kids and getting ready to put them in school, like we moved to Northern Virginia, and we specifically picked a house that was right next to like the best public school in the county. And I was like, all right.
Which county is that?
Stafford County.
Stafford, yeah.
So it's like, all right, this is a great school. It's literally right behind our house, so we can walk them to school in the morning before we go to work. Like, this is super easy. I love it. And then, but nobody would take my son because he was a December baby. So they were like, no, you got to wait another year. And then so I was like, all right, let me interview a bunch of private schools. And I finally found one that I really liked, and it was up in Woodbridge. So I sent him up there, and really loved the school. It was a great school. And once I got through 1 year of that, I was like, I'm not taking him out of this. It's like, this is amazing. Yeah. Like I love the structure. I love what they're teaching. He was studying Bible verses. He'd come home and he had this little trophy for memorizing all his Bible verses for the year, and like all of this stuff. And I was like, no, this is what I want. Like, this is what we need. Because it's, again, the impact that school has, they're in that school for 7-8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of impact. And sure, I don't know what every parent is doing with their kids when they go home. So I don't know what the kids are going to expose, but I know that the structure inside of the school is such that is going to help my son progress mentally, emotionally, with his walk with God. Like, all of that is a massive impact to me. And I was like, there's no way I would put my kid in public school anymore. And now we homeschool. So, we're getting ready to start a third year of homeschool. So it's a big change there.
I totally get it. And the one thing I like about our private school is like there's no politics in it. It's just they're there to learn. They learn Bible verses as well, right? It's just a very traditional school. So you don't have to worry about, the politics that enter the school system where you don't have control. And public schools here in Florida, I mean, the one down the street that my kids would go to, 48 kids in a classroom.
Jeez.
With a teacher and a teacher assistant. I mean, they're not learning anything. That's just continued daycare. I mean, they are well rated, but that's well rated for Florida. It's not going to be anything compared to Virginia, where we grew up, outside of Falls Church, and my wife out of Ashburn. I mean, the school systems are completely different. The level of education and the quality of the teacher are completely different, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But when you compare it to the private school, you can't tell the difference between those two. But yeah, I like to have a little bit of control. While I don't want to control the kid, I do want to control what I can for the environment to set them up for success. There is the other risk, though, of being in these private schools where it's like a bubble and it's not like reality and so I do have those concerns. So we try to get as much diversity outside of the school and kind of share that, hey, this is like where you go to learn, but there's people who are different and think differently, and that's okay. And you should respect what they think and how they learn and how they grow as well. And so we are very well aware that this is like a bubble type of situation. I live in a country club with a gated community, right?
Yeah.
And we golf up to the club, and like they are very, I do have those concerns when you start talking about private school and where you live in the community that you have, that they are going to be that generate like a very soft generation. So we're very aware of that, because we don't want our second gen to basically not only light on fire all the wealth that we've built, but just we want them to be productive human beings that actually contribute versus people who just sit and take or sit and enjoy the spoils of what their parents earned. I don't think that's a good life, to be honest with you. I think being hungry and going out there and learning something and doing something is really important. So we've set up a system in our mind where our kids really, they get a certain amount of money that's put away for them. It's not enough for them to live on. And that's just going to be what they're getting. And they're not getting anything else, no inheritance to try. And we're going to, at some point when they're old enough to understand that, I think that they'll start thinking differently about how they want to live their life. Because I know a lot of kids, when they realize they're going to have a huge inheritance and their parents are really wealthy, it really messes them up. And they start questioning why even bother working hard, that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those things that if you're intentional about it, which it sounds like you are, and you're showing them what it took, where maybe, the things that you're avoiding, the things that you're teaching, the things that you're bringing them to, let's say the soup kitchen, and you're volunteering at the soup kitchen, you see that other people are living a life that is very different than yours. Like, you are very blessed to be in a position that you're in. And that's one of the things that inside Go Abundance, we talk about a lot. A lot of the guys are like, how do I make sure that my kids aren't raised to be spoiled brats and realize what they have, and it's one of we'll expose them to what it's like on the other side. Like, let them see what it is, let them work hard, let them, get blisters on their hands and build calluses and, learn what it is to do hard work. But regardless, it's being intentional about how it goes. And too many people, I shouldn't say too many. There's a lot of wealthy families that they're more than happy to just have their money pay for all of the problems, and then the kids never have to deal with a problem. And if your kids never have to deal with a problem, then when they become an adult, when they become the age of an adult, they're still a kid, and they have yet to figure out what it means to be an adult. So I think you're doing the right thing to at least expose them to what that is and give them some hardship. They're
spoiled and entitled, and we know a lot of them, and we know a lot of other parents, even in our school district, don't think the same way that we do about that. Yeah. They're not even aware that they're doing it because they're not exposed to these type of conversations. So they're just going about just solving every problem with money. Their kid wants something, they immediately buy it for them. They're sometimes W-2, not entrepreneurs, which is fine. But it's a different type of mindset, right? It's how do I build a life of comfort versus a life of purpose? And there's a huge difference between the two. Now, obviously, if you've earned it, you've earned your life of comfort. That's one thing. But if you haven't earned it, I think you're missing a whole aspect in the fun around life and, having a journey. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, it's a lot of work to earn it. It takes some effort, And I think that I saw on your LinkedIn that you started off as an investment banker. Is that right? Yeah. So I went to Virginia Tech and was a finance guy. And my dream job was to go work on Wall Street, trade stocks, trade bonds, all that kind of stuff. Realized that wasn't for me. I worked in New York on 60 Wall Street. And I hated the energy of the place. It was very dirty. The people were very mean and angry. And you kind of do that thing where you look ahead 5 to 10 years and you're like, that's what my life is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And I was disappointed because they were divorced 3 times. They weren't talking with their kids. All they did was work all the time. And because they were divorced so many times, they didn't even have money. So they were just, I was like, well, this is it doesn't even make sense to go down that path. So instead of working on Wall Street, I ended up getting my real estate license here in Florida back in 2016, worked my butt off, open houses, door knocking, cold calls, all that stuff. And I became the #1 agent in the marketplace in my first year. And then my second year sold a bunch more, and I 10x'd my income within 2 years, and then brought my wife into it. And we, were one of the top 100 agents in the country. For the number of sales and volume that we had. And from there, we had our first kid and we decided, hey, that was Evelyn. That was in 2019. We don't want to live this lifestyle of the grind anymore. And we just became net worth millionaires through just selling real estate and having a couple investment properties. And we're like, how do we get out of this rat race? So we're like, what if we just teach other people to do what we did? Because we made more money than anybody we knew locally in the shortest period of time. What if we copy those systems and models and help other agents apply them into their business? And it worked. And in 2020, we launched a brokerage, and we only expected to help 3 or 4 agents. But by the end of the first year, we had like 75 agents, and it went to 150, then to 225. Now we're, almost, probably going to end this year around 300 agents in our roster. And we're number 2 brokerage in our brokerage office in our marketplace. So we're just, we're really passionate about helping people build wealth because we know what it can do for you and how it can change your life, because we came from nothing. So, when I graduated from Virginia Tech, I had $80,000 in debt. I had student loans, car loans, and then I bought my first house, which was another loan. And I was just living the life that all the other W-2 people have, which is basically you're living to pay off your debt. And it can take a decade or 2 to just pay off the debt and become, debt free, which is insane. I was lucky because I was in an industry where it was based on how hard I worked and the amount of skill that I bring to the table in my negotiations. And I was able to clear my debt within the first year and take it from there. And so we were just very blessed. That's when I met John Wanberg. He taught me how to buy from foreclosure auctions, made $1 million there, opened a mortgage branch, opened a title company, all that kind of stuff. And now we're at a place where the money is coming in every single month, and we're able to build a massive amount of cash flow where, we're like 5x our spend for our family.
Nice.
5. And so we're financially free and we're having a blast. We don't have to think about the cost of things when we want to go on a vacation. But we're at the same time, we're very intentional with the kids. I don't just buy my kid whatever they ask for. Yeah. We actually make them. My daughter, she's like, I want to sell something. So she goes and buys peanut M&Ms and then resells them here locally for like $3, to neighbors and people driving down the street. She likes selling things so then she can go buy her next Beanie Baby or whatever. And she likes that actual process because I'm like, I'm not buying that for you. She's got a piggy bank where she saves up. She bought a Starbucks cup that was $25. From just money that she was collecting from here and there doing chores and whatnot. And we like that. So we definitely want to be as intentional as possible considering our circumstance. That way they don't become one of those rich, spoiled kids, which I think it could be really easy for that to happen. It's
super easy. Yeah. And the fact that you went through, the reason I asked about the investment banker is because you went from working at W-2, decided, no, I'm going to go work for myself and try to figure this out. And you had already hit one of the questions I was going to ask in there is what it was that you saw in that led you to go be an entrepreneur. And now, it helps kind of connect why you have such a different mindset and why you're looking at things differently with your kids. Because you're like, I know what negativity is on that other side. Just like when I was in the military, I saw the massive amounts of divorce, the people that were, volunteering to deploy just to get away from their family. And it was like, man, I want to be around my family. I want to be near them. I want to help serve my family and support them. And like, this is not going to be helpful. But the fact that you saw that on that W-2, I'm sure helped you out on the entrepreneur side, because one of the reasons I started this podcast as well, and I think I kind of alluded to it, is I saw a lot of entrepreneurs doing the same thing I saw the military guys doing. And they immerse themselves in their business, building their business, quote unquote, for their family. And they never see their family. And it's like, no, like you've got to figure out how to make that balance. So what sort of tips would you give somebody who may be listening to this and they're like, hey, I want to be a little bit more involved with my family, but man, my business just takes up all of my time. I got to figure out how to do all of this. Like what sort of things did you set up in your business to allow you to be more engaged in your family?
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. So I grinded 16 hours a day before I had kids. Mm-hmm. And then once I had the kid, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not, I have $1 million net worth. I have, a couple $1,000s coming in each month. I don't need to work this way anymore. I don't need to make more money. But the question that we came up with is like, how do we make more money with spending less time? Mm-hmm. And that led us to a different business model that's actually scalable. And our company is virtual, so I don't have to go to an office every single day. So we designed our life around our family first, and then the business sprinkled around it. So, And that's kind of how we are today. It wasn't like that originally. I actually sacrificed a lot of relationships starting out and made a bunch of bad decisions with my health and with family relationships because I was just so busy working all the time. There was a point where my mom had called me and said, "Hey, I have cancer, breast cancer." And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so like I was stunned, but I was in between like 4 closings and I was just like, oh my gosh, that, I'm going to hop on a plane and come home. And she's like, no, I know you're busy, honey. Just like continue doing what you're going to do. My other 2 brothers flew home regardless of her saying that. And I did not. And that was like a big mistake, right? She's been there for me my whole life. I needed to be there for her. But that's just an example of like, I let the business take over big moments in my life. And that was definitely a mistake. Now, looking back, I'm glad I sacrificed. That's probably the one part that I wish I hadn't. But I'm glad I worked those 5 years to make the money first so I could have the family, because it reduced the stress tremendously on me and my wife having the kids. I don't even know if we didn't have the money and the resources and the leverage that we had, if my wife would even give me a 3rd kid, so I was cut off at 3 and I wanted more actually. But I'm blessed to have the 3 that I do. And we have like a perfect family in my view. Very happy with the way that things turned out. But I think, it's when you get to that point where you have the money and you have the business and it's coming in, you need to start leveraging out all of this stuff that you don't need to do. And it's game time, because the minute that you stop leveraging out, the minute you start sacrificing your family. So, we have like 4 virtual assistants who do everything for us. We pay everybody to do something for us. We're totally fine if it means being down a month or whatever to get that time back with family. So we're right now, every time that they're home now, I'm not perfect, right? I look at my phone when they get home and stuff like that, and I'm working on it. But we're still an on-demand business, but we've kind of moonwalked as much away from not having to be out of town or not being there when the kids get home from school for the first hour or 2. We want that consistency in the life. And I think people who don't give that consistency to their kids, it can be really difficult on the kid.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I think having that consistency is an amazing thing. Like for them to know that a solid mom and a solid dad are there at home waiting for them, that are there to support them, is a massive thing. And I think I forgot what the statistics are, but just having a mom and dad at home is like one of the number one indicators that the kids are not like they're gonna graduate high school. They're not going to be going to jail. They're not going to be like, just having that consistency at home. It's super, super important. So as they're continuing to grow, and you already kind of alluded to the travel side of the house. How are you working travel in with school? Because that's one of the reasons that I decided to homeschool. Was I like to travel and go places. And when the military sent me all over, I couldn't take my kids. Now, when I'm sending myself all over the place, I want to take my kids. And that is very difficult when they go to a regular traditional school. So how do you kind of work your schedule through the school schedule?
The kids, they travel with us once in a while, but the majority of time they just stay in the school system, and it's either my wife traveling or me traveling, or if both of us are going, we fly down her parents or we get my parents. We also have a web of nannies that we've had for basically 6-7 years. Nice. Who the kids love, right? They're basically family members of this time. So it doesn't feel disruptive to them if we're out of town for 3 or 4 days on a trip. And that's the most important thing. Like, they get the consistency. It's not like it's a new babysitter every single time. It's somebody who is literally feeding them bottles when they're a baby. They've known them since they're a baby. They don't know that this person's not a family member, right? They feel the love, like if we're there or not. And then, of course, when we're gone, we're FaceTiming them and sending them videos and stuff like that. So we stay connected. But there hasn't been a time where we're like, hey, we're going to jump on something and travel for a month. We're not at that phase yet. They're still a little young. I don't really want to bring around a 2-year-old with me everywhere. We're still changing diapers, and it's a pain in the butt. So we are a little bit, high maintenance on the travel perspective. But my wife's in GoBundance Women's Group. She does her trips. Nice. I do my trips. And then we just are unlimited support from a relationship status standpoint. If she wants to go do something, I'm like, do it. Like, I got you covered. I'll watch the kids. It's not a problem. And when I want to go do something, like we went to go see Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and we made the decision in like 24-hour. We're like, oh, I'm just going to jump on a plane. My wife's like, go, 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 go. And then she wanted to go see Taylor Swift's last concert or whatever. And I'm like, go, just do it. And that type of stuff. We hold down the fort for each other. We're very supportive and we don't want to restrict each other. We're both entrepreneurial. And the worst thing you can do to an entrepreneur is try to control or restrict them. So instead of that, we just go the other way. It's like, yes. And how do we pull it off? And how do we get you to do it on your time frame? And I think that's really healthy for most relationships. I'm not the type of person who would be able to be in a relationship with a spouse that would control my ability to travel or, require me to be at home all of the time. That wouldn't work for me. So I have like a great match in my spouse and in Brittany.
Yeah, hopefully you figure that out before you get married, right? That's one of those things you have the conversations about before you get married and understand who they are. And that's, it goes to I couldn't have a relationship with a traditional school anymore because of that same reason. I was like, I want to be able to bring my kids places. I want to be able to go do things. And, I've brought my kids to so many Fam Abundance and Go Abundance events all over the country. And, by the time my middle child, Rourke, he was born in Japan and we moved to the U.S. when he was 7 months old. We moved to Virginia. And when we got to the U.S., that was his sixth country. So we had drug him all over Asia. He had more passport stamps at 7 months old than most adults have by the time they die. And so it's just fun for me. I love being able to do that. It is a pain in the butt to travel I get it. I just came back from a long road trip from Florida to Niagara Falls and back with a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 10-year-old, right? So lots of extra stops, lots of different, messes in the back of the car. But it's one of those that's, again, I come from such a different perspective of flying all over the world, being told by the military I needed to be certain places that I was like, I'm not missing these moments. I want to be able to have these with the kids. So, but don't get me wrong. I love to be able to go on a Go Abundance trip all by myself and be able to spend some time with the guys. It makes a huge difference in our mental health and my ability to be able to focus on business stuff too. So,
I think for us, it's just an age thing too. They're just a little young. I think in probably 2 to 3 years, we'll be traveling more.
Yeah. My 10-year-old is a massive help for all sorts of stuff. Like he's pretty self-reliant. Yes. He'll make his own breakfast. He'll get stuff ready. He'll get lunch ready for the kids, and so I mean it's pretty awesome to be able to have him around as a helper. So I mean I know before we started recording I mentioned I wish my kids were a little closer in age, but then I think about that and I'm like the 10-year-old and he wants to do it. He wants to serve. He wants to help. Sure he still wants to be a 10-year-old. Like really do I have to do this? But a lot of times he's like, what can I do to help? How can I do that? And he just wants to go and do it, which I love. Awesome. I love his heart on that. So as you're continuing to grow the business out, how are your plans working with you and your wife to kind of say, okay, you mentioned already the no inheritance thing, but what are your plans on, maybe including the kids in business, how you kind of want to grow the business around, like what sort of exposure you want to give the kids to the business and that sort of stuff?
I mean, they're exposed to it because, the most of our work is over the phone. So they'll come home, they'll hear us on the phone. It's fun. They pick up things that we say and then they say it to us later. And I'm like, oh no, but it's, but they understand what we do. And they come to some of our events. They're involved with, like my wife used to show homes and like would just take her with her, and all that kind of stuff. So they're exposed to what we do on a day-to-day basis in the first place. But, as the business continues to grow, I mean, I don't know if I really want them to be thinking about it too much at this age, probably closer when they get to like 8 to 10 years old. It's more of like, hey, this is what we do. This is why we do it. This is how we do it. And I want to walk you through all this stuff. But right now they're just not there. It's more of like change the diaper, make sure they get to the right place at the right time with their stuff. But I'll probably reach out to you and ask you for advice at that point in time of, at like what age do you kind of start getting them involved in the business? And do you have any thoughts on that?
I involve them at whatever level they're at right now, right? Like a 2-year-old, not much of a level there, right? So if I had a different kind of business, I'd probably still want to employ my 2-year-old and have them be a model and everything, and have some write-off expenses and being able to give them some pay that's non-taxable that can go into an IRA, a Roth IRA, and some other stuff to kind of build their wealth. But But really, I mean, like my 10-year-old always wants to ask me questions about that sort of stuff. Like we're getting ready to buy, shockingly, weirdly, an escape room. I would have never thought I'd buy that, but a friend of mine was in it, and they were having an issue with kind of operating it. So they asked me for some help, and I'm going to go buy that from them. And my son is totally stoked about it because he loves escape rooms. So I was like, all right, what a great way. You know, we can do some homeschool at the place. You can learn about books, you can learn about the math, learn about business. You can help. I'll actually employ you in the business. You can come in and invite customers in. As I'm building the systems out, he can work right there and do the thing, you know. And that's going to be something that I don't think I'll ever forget. And you know, I'd been wanting to, and I call myself out on this all the time, and I've yet to do it. But this is actually a perfect opportunity. I've been telling them that I want to get them a vending machine. Right. Yeah. Let's find a vending machine route for you guys, even if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 machines, you know, have you guys come with me, you go to Sam's Club, you buy this stuff, you know, similar to what your daughter does with the M&Ms, right? Only now we're doing it in a machine. And like, okay, now you get to look at a balance sheet. You can learn about profit and loss. You can learn about, market demands. Like, okay, well, if you have one at the gym, you probably shouldn't have peanut M&Ms in there. You should probably have protein bars, right? Yes. But if you have one at the industry shop down the road, maybe the peanut M&Ms and the potato chips will work well there. So like, how do you teach that to your kids? And that's one of the benefits I think of the homeschool is I get to include all of that into it. So, and even my 6-year-old wants to do that. Like he's like, yeah, because then I can earn more money. You know, he's the same way with like, he's got his wallet full and he's like, I think right now he's got, I don't know, just shy of $1,000 in his wallet. He's totally stoked about it. He thinks this is like the most amazing thing in the world, and then forgets about it for a month. And he's like, oh yeah, I've got $1,000. This is awesome. You know, but I'd say expose them as much as you can, as much as you're willing to and wanting to.
We're thinking about the future, Adam. One of the things that concerns me the most is the rise of AI technology and how that's going to impact things. I just bought the Meta Quest 3, which is like this headset for virtual reality, and it's like unbelievable. And I'm like, you could plug into one of those and go to school. You could, you can literally plug yourself in and you can be at a camera anywhere in the world. And I'm just thinking to myself, the world for our kids is going to be so different than what we grew up with, because when we grew up, we didn't even have a cell phone in our hands until we were like 16 years old. We used, the flip phone texting and, AIM and all this stuff. It was like very hard to communicate. And if you weren't, I didn't even have reception most of the time. Like the only way you could communicate was really face to face. And then we got the digital aspect of it along the way and had to learn it. All these kids now are going to be built with the digital aspect from the beginning. Like they don't even have textbooks at our school. It's like all, like reading on like iPads and stuff. Yeah. And I think it's going to be very different in the future. And I was wondering if you had any concerns about that, or people on your podcast who have talked about the concerns for AI and children down the line and how that's going to kind of change human behavior.
I haven't fully delved into that much on the podcast, but I have thought about it a decent amount. And I think to myself, I want to think like one of those companies in 1996 that the internet was kind of coming around, and there were there were a lot of companies that were like, internet, come on, like that's going to be a fad, it's going to be gone. You get the .com bubble coming in late 90s, and people are just kind of like, oh whatever, like it everything exploded, and then the people who were like, oh, the internet's going to be a fad, watched all of those things fall apart, and they were like, see, I told you, but didn't realize that this is still like the core tenet of this is going to stick around for a long time. So I think AI is going to be the same thing in all of our business and all of our life. It's going to be the internet. It's going to be it's going to be ubiquitous, and everybody's going to have it. Everybody's going to be using it. So how do I use it? Do I want my kids to use the internet in 2001, 2002? I'm a senior in high school. Do I use the internet to make myself dumber by just spitting out answers and putting it in there, or do I use the internet to make myself smarter by growing my knowledge base to be able to write this paper better? Because even as a senior in high school, we still had the option to write papers. Most people I'm right at that edge where I didn't have a computer until I was a junior, I think, in high school, when we finally had a computer at home. But here I get the opportunity to say, okay, what is AI going to do? AI is going to be everywhere. So how can I use it to help my kids get smarter, to build things, to grow, and not use it to just answer all their questions at a whim, which it can do. but you still need it. Like, how do we use it? So I don't fully know how to do that. It's still something I've been contemplating, just like you're kind of implying you're contemplating it as well. Is like, how do I continue to use AI to help them grow, as opposed to, because it's going to be there. So how do I teach them to use it responsibly and use it, for good, instead of, making themselves dumber? Because that's going to be very easy to do, is just make yourself dumber if you have the answer all the time right there in front of your face.
Yeah, well, it's already happening, right? Because of the TikTok doom scrolling, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And people stay up late at night doom scrolling, and they get tired, and then they aren't able to focus at school. And I think like you said, you can use it for good or for bad. I think it's a good way to look at it. It's just can you actually put those guardrails up, or you're just going to have to teach the kid, hey, this is the way you use it the right way. This is the way we think you should use it versus the way that, other people are using it.
Yeah. I watched the movie. Oh, what the heck's it called? It's semi dumb, but it was still good. But it was Hackers. Is that what it's called? I think it's called Hackers. It had Angelina Jolie in it, if I remember correctly. It's from like 1996 or something like that. And I think to myself, had I done what they were doing by learning that technology, I was out in the woods. Like, technology wasn't a thing. Like, right. I was out in the woods. I had my Red Ryder BB gun. What do you want, little lady? I don't know what she wants. She's saying something, but I wish that I would have had access. My parents we didn't have the financial capability to own a computer at all until, like I said, my junior year anyway. So it was one of those things that how my life would have been different had I been exposed to it, and what knowledge I could have gained. So since I have the ability to provide that to my kids, what can I do to support that and help them understand it? I wish that I would have known more about computers then. So if that's the case, maybe I should imply that my kids should know more about AI now. So I recently saw, I think it was a GoBundance guy. Maybe it was not. Let me see if I can get the name of it. I have not looked into this at all, so I don't really know. I'm not going to be able to find it, but there was like a program for kids to be able to like learn AI and how to kind of get all that programming in, that's teaching them again how to make it useful for them, not just to substitute their knowledge. Right. So I don't really know. I'm saying all that to say that I don't really know the answer to that question, but hopefully we figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody will be able to figure it out. I just think about it like, if I was in high school, I had access to ChatGPT, I wouldn't be writing any of my papers. I wouldn't be working as hard. And, I think about, the Waymos that are going to be delivering food to our houses, and you're going to be transporting people around, and how much more time that's going to give parents and kids and all this stuff. And it might actually be cheaper, too, to have like a Waymo take everybody around versus having an actual car. And I think about the future, and it's coming really fast, and things are, I think the next 10 years are going to be really life-changing, and I wonder how that's going to impact kids and how they communicate, right? Because a lot of them don't even look you in the eye anymore, so we're really big on that, right? When we go to the grocery store, they're the ones handing the credit card over, looking at their name tag, saying, hi, whoever, and, thank you so much for this and all this stuff. We're trying, right? We're doing everything that we can, but there won't even be a cashier to say hi to, in some of these stores. So I kind of think of, how our human interaction is going to change through AI, and how's that going to impact kids growing up these days. Because I see like the Gen Z, the studies that are coming out is that like they're depressed, their social skills are down, they're not having sex anymore, like they're not being like normal humans that have lived before us, like our generation. Like, it's already very disconnected, and the AI stuff has only just begun.
Yeah, it's I think there's multiple levers to that, not just the AI side, but there's a lot that goes into that. I think part of that is the experience they had through COVID too. A lot of the younger ones that had no social interaction at all. They when they'd walk around and see everybody covered in a mask, there's no facial expressions they were able to see. There wasn't communication. Everybody's stuck in a house. Like, it's just what a mess of a world to have to grow up in. But it's funny you mentioned like not even having cashiers. I was traveling through the airport yesterday, and there's this little section where you like scan your credit card on the way in, and you just grab the stuff off the shelf and walk out, and it charges your credit card with the stuff that you walked out with. And I was like, that is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I know that it's possible, but and that's just that's been going on for a while. I remember going to college. There was a guy. So I was going to Miami University in Ohio, and we had this project where we had to kind of figure out, like developing some new idea of something or other. And he was trying to create a shopping cart. And this was, I was after my enlisted time in the military. So I think it was like 2010, 2011 time frame. I was going to college out there for that. And he was trying to create a shopping cart that had RFIDs and everything, right? So that you'd put it in and it would know what was in your shopping cart and automatically tabulate it up. So you never had to go see anybody. You never had to do anything. Everything's in your shopping cart. You walk out, you swipe you had your card associated to it. And I was like, boy, that's a really cool idea. Like, and I would have never thought, like, it felt almost futuristic in 2010 even, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, I know what RFID is. I know that makes sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's just going to be a lot to put RFIDs inside of, Rice Krispies to make sure that it all happens. But the concept was awesome. And I look back, I didn't even think about it until now as we're talking about this, but it was like, that was kind of like the beginning stages of people trying to figure all of this out. So I don't even know where I want to go with that, but I thought it was an interesting aside.
Well, even just the cashiers going away. I mean, I was a cashier at a restaurant when I was a kid growing up, and now those positions for kids, because a lot of them are filled by kids, 16, 18, 20 years old. And if we start getting rid of the Chipotle burrito line and all those people there, where are these people going to work? And meanwhile, we see this like massive wealth disparity, more money going to the wealthy. And I'm certainly a beneficiary of it, but I'd rather see a market where more people benefit rather than fewer. So it's one of those interesting times where I think, where your kids, how do you prep your kids for the future for jobs, because I think a lot of the jobs will be even the real estate agent. I don't know if that's going to be a position that's going to be around in a decade from today. And I think the tech is already there to mostly replace them. It's just a matter of time before, somebody comes along and puts the pieces together and gets rid of that entire profession. I see that even on the legal side with ChatGPT. ChatGPT Legal is phenomenal. I've saved tens of thousands of dollars asking it questions for $20 a month versus going to an attorney. And the answer sometimes from ChatGPT is better than the attorney, because I'll ask the attorney questions of like, what about this? Or like, how do you know about that? It's like, I just did a 5-minute ChatGPT on this thing. So, have you had conversations with people, or have you thought yourself about, how do you prepare your kids for the workforce, that they're going to be entering? You have a 10-year-old basically in 6 to 10 years. Have you thought about that at all, and how you would prepare them for that?
I have, because what does the workforce look like, right? So, and my goal for my kids is to expose them to as much as humanly possible for them to be able to choose what they want when the time comes, right? Where me, I was not exposed to a whole lot. So I joined the military because that's what I was exposed to. That's what I knew. Both of my parents were in, so that's what I did. So my goal now has shifted to be like, okay, what can I expose them to? What is the world going to look like? Which again, if I can get them to understand AI, use AI, know what it's capable of, what things are going to be substituted for AI, well, let's not chase that down. Like, I'm not even going to have you think about it. Before, I would have had you start thinking about coding. Like, how can I get you to learn how to code and do all this stuff? Now I'm not even going to think about that, because AI is going to be coding.
Big mistake for the parents that put their kids in coding.
And who would have seen that coming, right? Yeah. Unless you were inside of that world, you wouldn't have seen it coming. Yeah. But now we have AI, and it's like, okay, what does that look like? So how do I teach my kids to, no matter what the problem is that's out there, you could be the one to figure it out. So if I could teach my kids to be problem solvers more than, task doers, then, problem solvers are always in need, no matter where it's at. So let me teach you how to be a problem solver and figure things out, and, think outside of the box. So rather than looking at it and say, okay, what do I want to teach? What skills do I want to teach that, tangible skills or tactile skills or whatever? It's like, okay, let me teach you how to actually think about situations differently than everybody else and solve problems. I'm not very good at that necessarily, because I'm a problem solver by nature. So I tend to just solve problems without thinking about it and giving them the opportunity sometimes to solve it. So I know that my goal is to teach them to do that, but it doesn't always work out that well. Yeah. But at least that's part of my idea, is that if I can teach them that, then no matter where they go in life, they'll be able to be successful no matter what's going on. But exposing them to what the world has and what's out there, I think is going to help them immensely. So
so don't fear it, embrace it.
Exactly.
Embrace it.
Yeah. Yep. Don't run from it. Just let it be around. I remember growing up and
stop it anyway, man. It's like trying to stop the internet.
There's no stopping it at all. Yeah. Right. And there is something that you said I want to push back on a tiny bit. Sure. We'll see it because it depends on what you said, because like the disparity, the wealth gap thing. And I will not push back and say that there's not a wealth gap, because obviously there is. I'm positive there's a wealth gap on this conversation. Right. But there's a wealth gap in life. But when you look at where the bottom rung has gone up in the same process, yes, the top rung has gone farther, but the bottom rung has gone up way more than what it was even when we were younger. So it's one of those that everybody is successful as a whole when the top 1% become even more successful, because they bring everybody up with them. Yes, the top 1% will always be more successful than the bottom 50%. Right? That's just the nature of the beast. But how do I make sure that I teach my kids to, if they are in the top 1% at one point, to respect, love, care for, and want to help grow the bottom percentile as well, is another one of those things that I try to, especially as Christians, like we should be supporting everybody in any way that we can. And I don't look to the government for that. I look to us as individuals for that, and like supporting people. But
I think about, my journey where I wasn't even broke, worse than broke, right? In debt. And then I was at a W-2 job where I could not earn any more money. Like I was maxed out at $60,000. And at the end of the year, if I worked an entire year, my leftovers, if I saved very well, I could have $10,000 left over. But then I see, with how much rents have gone up, and then home prices and all this stuff. And then, your health insurance is now 32% of your freaking paycheck, right? I start to think about, could I have replicated what I did a decade ago today? Or was it basically the federal government came in with zero interest rate policy and made me rich, and I was at the right place at the right time? I don't see that being a possibility today for somebody to do what I did. And that's one of my concerns, is like, maybe there's another way for them to do it, and it wasn't the exact way that I did it. But I do have concern that the opportunity is becoming less, because we are starting to see a great divide with all the gains going to the few. I mean, the stats out there show that 68% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So they're not saving anything, right? And some of that's going to be their self-choice. Some of that is going to just be limited opportunity, whatever. But, with AI coming in, that's what my thinking is like these jobs where you could outwork basically the W-2 and get a 10x multiple like I did from an income perspective, just by working harder, harder. I think it's not from laziness. It's not from lack of intellect, all that kind of stuff. I just think like AI is probably going to take some of those opportunities away and then commoditize them. In a lot of ways they already are. It may be anyway. So there's just like a question mark for me around that, is like at what point it actually being detrimental, where we have basically 90% of the population that just can't get out from the bottom. Obviously, you can still do it today. Definitely, no question. I'm concerned about the future and thinking like, will there be these type of opportunities that I had, maybe you had, in the future? And that's something that crosses my mind, especially when I talk to my friend. Like, I'm one of the wealthiest people I know. I'm the wealthiest person in my family. I feel like I have a big responsibility to help other people build their wealth. And I'm just thinking about ways like how can you help them do that to get out of the rat race as soon as possible? And will there be more opportunities to do it, or less opportunities in the future? Of course, the opportunities that, again, if you're lazy, you're not going to go anywhere. If you're stupid, you're
no matter what.
Anywhere. That's like, you're going to be at the bottom no matter what. But I'm worried, thinking of like the next me who's coming through the system. Like, where do they find the opportunity to get to the next level? And that's where my question mark is. No,
I agree with. And, I'll say that one of my theories, one of my desires is to have the government have as little interaction with us as possible, and I think that will help.
Amen.
That will help by far get us beyond that stage, because it's one of those things like, okay, when did college become so expensive? When the government started backing it and saying, oh yeah, we'll subsidize that. That's when it started getting expensive. Yes. That 32% of your income that is going to health insurance. Yeah. What happened with that? Oh well, the government started getting involved in healthcare and all the nonsense that goes along with that, and regulating a bunch of and regulations are good in certain circumstances. Don't get me wrong; I don't want people to hear that they're not. But when the government starts putting their fingers in things, like the government is in and of itself designed to, it's a thing that's going to want to grow and it's going to want to be involved in things. So we need to, as people, make sure that does not happen. Like it does not grow and get more involved in things. Because I am a strong believer in the free market will help kind of solve a lot of those problems. And if the government comes in and tries to control the free market, it's no longer free and it becomes a larger issue.
They manipulate everything. I mean, the government's out of control. I mean, they're manipulating the money supply. They're manipulating.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about those 0% interest that helped you kind of grow. Yes, it's going to help people who are at a position to be able to do that, but it's going to hurt a ton of people that are not in the position to be able to take advantage of that.
The middle class is just going to cause inflation for them, but it's going to inflate the assets of the people who own assets. And so it's not a good policy for the majority. It's the good policy for a minority group of people.
Like it sounds good on paper. So it's similar to communism. Yeah, it sounds great on paper, but it's never been successful and it never will be successful. It's just not a thing that's going to happen. It's going to drag everybody down. But I don't know. There's a lot involved in that conversation. But from my perspective, the government should stay out of almost every part of my life. Period. End of story. So
I feel the same, but I feel like they're just getting more involved. So,
it is a mess. You're not wrong. You are not wrong there. But so as you're continuing to grow the business out, what are your thoughts? Or as you continue to grow your children, what are your thoughts on the AI side of the house and how you're what your intention is on driving your kids towards success in 2050 as opposed to 2025?
I have no idea. I mean, Adam, I could. That's why I'm asking you. I have no idea. I haven't really talked about about it with other people, but it's just something that I'll continue to explore and ask around.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to seek out somebody who's a biz dad that knows a bunch about AI and see if I can get them to kind of chat about how their views on AI is impacting how they parent. That'll be a thing for me to kind of drive towards. See if I can find somebody to chat about that.
So I don't think we know. I mean, it's brand new, right? So it's gonna we're gonna look back 20 years from now and be like, man, I really messed up. I shouldn't have given them Chat GPT, man, I wish I'd given them Chat GPT and they really learned how to prompt it. It's like you don't know. Looking back, we'll know. I don't think there's going to be a right answer to it, and maybe each kid is a little bit different, right? If you have a kid who's really not very intelligent, maybe the Chat GPT is like the best thing you could put in their hand. If you got a kid who's like a whiz and they don't need it, right? So I don't know if there's a right answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I think it is a tool that we're going to have to teach them how to use and not be used by it, similar to social media, right? Because social media can eat you alive. Like you talked about the doom scrolling on TikTok and all the stuff can just eat your brain alive or you can use it to be a producer and not a consumer and turn it into wealth. So how we use the tool will really adjust how successful or not successful we are with it. So, we'll see how it kind of goes. I don't know. So you've been married for, you said 2017, so 8 years. Yeah. When you guys were in the dating phase and, talking about getting married, did you guys have conversations about how you wanted to raise kids and what your goals were about kids and all that?
So we met over the beer pong table in college. So
very good. Yeah.
In 2010. So we've been together, 15 years. I know my wife better than anybody. We spend all day together because we work together as well, which is a unique aspect of it. But when we decided to have kids, I think it was a joint decision, clearly, and we both were just prepared. Actually, the goal was to always have kids, but we wanted to hit our financial number first because we really saw a lot of friends who had kids without the income really struggle. So we were like, hey, let's hit the financial goal. Let's get there as soon as humanly possible. We wanted to have kids as early as possible. We started having our first kid at 27, right? My wife getting pregnant, all this stuff. And we thought the sooner the better. We had noticed a lot of people who were older than us, like even in their 40s, 42, starting to have kids because they just delayed. by the way, it's something we're seeing in real estate too. You know, people are waiting to buy their first house. It's now 38 years old as the first time home buyer. And they're delaying having families because it's so expensive to even have kids. And the cost of childcare and all that stuff hasn't really come down. It's actually gone up quite a bit. So we were just like, let's get us in a financial situation. Now, when we had kids, we had no idea what we were doing. So it was just, it actually like, we didn't realize how little sleep we would have. We didn't realize how much time it would take. So when that happened, it kind of crashed our business and it crashed our mentality. And we became like, we're like, let's turn it all off and become minimalist and just raise our kids and like live off the grid type of thing. And that only worked for 2 weeks because after that we were like, this is so boring. I got to do something. You can't just sit around and watch Netflix and all this other stuff all day while raising your kids, especially at that age. So that's when we came up with the idea, how do we build a business model to support our life in a way that we want to live it, and really start thinking of, you know, how do I design my life rather than just go through life being controlled by all the other variables around me. So we kind of took control of the situation and rebuilt, you know, our day-to-day schedules and all that kind of stuff, which was phenomenal. But before that, we hadn't really talked about it other than let's hit our financial goals and then let's have a kid.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, it's there's no right or wrong answer. I encourage folks all the time to have those conversations, right? Like, you know, especially how, like, how do we want to raise the kids, right? Because if you have a different idea of, you know, I forgot who it was I was listening to, but he talked about if you grew up in a house that was an open door where people were allowed to come in, similar to what you did, but your spouse grew up in a very, like, no, like, our home is sacred, nobody comes into our home other than us, right. And you have an idea of what that's like, and you guys don't figure that out until you guys have kids, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, you want what to happen inside of my house? Like, you know, and it becomes an issue. So have as many of those conversations as you can beforehand, and that's not to say that if you don't, it won't work out, because like you said, you figured it out kind of as you were having kids, some of the stuff. But I strongly encourage folks to have as many of the hard conversations you can up front. You know, how many kids do you want? How many, like, do you actually want to have kids? Do you want, like, what do you think about raising them up in the church? Do you, like, what kind of religion do we want? What kind of, you know, all of the different conversations I think are immensely important to have. But the second kids come out, man, oh man, it almost doesn't matter, right? Like, because the mindset of the mom is going to change. The mindset, oh my goodness. It's one of those things that we used to talk about in the military. It was plans are worthless, but planning is priceless, right? So it's the fact that you had the conversations, the fact that you are putting those plans in place, not necessarily because everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Thank you, Mike Tyson. Yep. But you know, in the military, it was, you know, like, plans are great until first contact, right? First contact with the enemy, then your plans, you know, shift a lot. The second the bullet starts flying. So, you know, make sure that you at least gone through the planning process. You guys are comfortable with each other. You've had those conversations. You go through it, and then adapt and overcome as you need to, because kids are going to change it. You know, your business is going to go through something that is going to lead you guys to say, you know what, I'm going to spend less time with you guys right now because my business is where it's at. And if you guys haven't had some of those conversations, that could be an extremely stressful time for the family. So,
I think part of it too is like who your spouse is. So we learned a lot about each other, right? We learned through strength finders, disc profiles, all this type of stuff. We've been together so long that, you know, our relationship is very stable. We haven't had a lot of issues in it, and we work together through things, and we're very proactive about the conversation. So, and we're flexible. So if she's like, hey, this is really important to me, I'm going to be like, okay, like, tell me about it. Why is it important to you? And I'll respect her and I'll support her in that. And I'll say, hey, this is important to me. So sometimes there's like a compromise there, but, you know, we're both learning type mindsets, which I think is the most important thing. There's not, you know, I see a lot of relationships where one spouse is like here and the other spouse is here, and there's such a disconnect in either intellect or growth or personal development that they can't even talk or communicate with each other, and that's where things get really messed up. My wife and I are like, you know, we're constantly just trying to level up each other and push each other to become better, and there's like a lot of mutual respect there where we trust each other's decision making on why they think something should be done a certain way, and then we can have an actual conversation about it, like important topics, without getting mad at each other, even if we disagree. And then maybe we come back to it in a few days. And so I don't know, it's like a mature relationship, I guess. You know, it's like what it's supposed to be.
Boy.
Shocking, right?
Yeah.
But I think we both have, she definitely has the EQ to be able to handle my high driver personality profile. And then I have the vision, and she's more of like a support role of where she's like, whatever vision you have, if I'm in alignment with it, I'm going with you on it no matter what. And so on the family side, I had a vision for 4 kids, but I'm happy to have 3. And so that's like an example of compromise, right? Like, and I went to go get snipped, right? She's like, I don't want to have to, take birth control anymore. You need to go get snipped and all this other stuff. I was like, she's never asked me for anything. I'm going to go do that for her. You know what I mean? So it's my turn to step up and reciprocate, what she has given. She gave birth to 3 kids, right? Yes. So I'm like one of those people who are flexible, and I try to be understanding of her situation and think about her point of view and how she feels about things rather than just trying to make it all about me. Yeah. And I think that we both prioritize each other, and I think that's really good for the relationship. So even if we hadn't talked about something up front, I think we will be able to figure it out in the future just because of the mutual respect for each other. Yeah,
which, I mean, I feel weird saying this, but that it's surprising how often that is not the case in a relationship. Like that should be
the case.
Usually
not the
case. I don't understand. Like, why did you get married then? If you can't be in a mutual, respectful relationship with each other and be able to take each other's ideas and thoughts and work together towards something, then why did you even get married? Like, and I think that people choosing to get married for the wrong reasons, I think tends to stem some of that, right? Especially if the reason that you married somebody is, she's got a really pretty face and a nice butt. Okay, great, but there's a whole lot more to life than what her face and butt look like, right?
Thinking.
So let's think beyond that. So actually build that relationship, know each other. It sounds like you guys knew each other for 7 years before you got married, right? So that's an impressive amount of time to be able to sit there and have those conversations and work through things and understand who each other are before you get married. So I love it. If you were to be talking to somebody maybe, and obviously this isn't your experience, so maybe you don't necessarily have the advice or thoughts on it, but maybe somebody's listening to this going, boy, I wish that I was in that relationship. Like how can they kind of spark some of those conversations that help make sure that the husband and wife are on the same page, that are kind of building through some of those things that are maybe have torn them down, but now they can use it to build each other up? What sort of thoughts do you have on that?
We do get a lot of questions about that because we're also a husband, wife, we work together. So not only are we parents.
That's on my list of things to ask you about too.
The household, but we also work together, and I think it's really important to be aligned on a lot of these aspects. So if you're struggling to get in alignment with each other, I mean, usually you do want some sort of facilitator. I don't think like therapy is the way to go, but like go to like a Tony Robbins event or something and start talking about the issues there. And then one of the biggest things I see, because we're in the real estate agent industry, and like a lot of real estate agents are divorced. So I'm like constantly having divorce conversations with people. And the one thing that I notice is they drift apart, right? I don't think that's the best. I think once you have the issue, it needs to be addressed immediately, whatever it is, like same day, and it needs to be like brutal 10 direct honesty. I'm not getting enough of this from you. I'm not, I would like, that really made me upset when you did that. Like communicating immediately when it happens in a way that's actually productive is really important. I see, like the people who I see have big issues, they don't communicate. They put stuff under the rug. They don't try to solve it right away, or at least just if you can't solve it, like just understand the other person's perspective. Now, I understand there's definitely individuals who change over time, right? Your spouse might change for the worse or for the better over a period of time, but your job as a spouse is to help grow the other person. I like the idea that that's the reason you're together. Together, you're better than if you're separate. And you should do everything you can to try to help the other person grow in a respectful, positive way. And do, if you can't and it's too far apart, then I think there is, an out for that. I think it's really hard for kids and that type of stuff, but there are relationships where I've seen them and I'm just like, it would be better for everybody involved if they did not continue together. And, my only thing about that is like, make sure to always prioritize, like you still need to respect the other person, even though it's really hard, like for the sake of the kids, like this is still the mother of your children at the least, like you need to respect them and you need to still find a way to have a healthy relationship beyond the split. that's my encouragement for people. I know it's really hard, and usually there's one side that, you know, just can't forgive the other or whatever, but it's like you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the kids at that point. And I hate to see it when they just can't let things go. And I think that's really unhealthy for the person who can't let it go, and it's unhealthy for the entire family. So I think, you know, forgiveness is probably one of the biggest things, but I think it's okay. I think it's more socially normal for people to split if it doesn't work out. And it's not as unusual. It's not like they go to school and they're only kid with like divorced parents and they're like a black sheep anymore. It's kind of become the norm. I don't think it's good. I don't support it, but there are cases where I think it does make sense.
Yeah, oftentimes I think that what I've seen is that what led you guys to get the divorce, either you guys made some very poor decisions to get married, right? And if you made a poor decision to get married, then it's very difficult to hold on to that decision as you're married. But it goes to what you had talked about already, is if you guys have gone down this trend for the last 5 years of burying everything, not discussing things, not working through the issues together, not trying to figure out what's actually, you know, behind the frustration, and you're just like, oh, whatever, it's fine. And then the other person's like, okay, yeah, you're right, it's fine, whatever. And we both know that it's fine, whatever does not mean it's fine, whatever. Like, that's not what that means.
It's still under the rug.
You know, it's and that rug gets so full of stuff underneath it that there's no, you know, it becomes the barrier itself. You guys are on opposite sides of this rug that has this massive mound of stuff in between it that neither one of you are willing to work through. It's like that person in a house that's hoarding. Like, it's okay if you've put some stuff on your desk right now, but if you put more stuff on it tomorrow and then more stuff on it the next day, before you know it, your whole house is covered in crap and you can't get rid of it. It's better to burn the house down.
That's why you need to address it immediately.
Address it now. Figure it out now.
You're like, hey, like, why is there all this crap over here? It's like, you need to figure this out like today. And like, hey, it like stresses me out having all this crap here. Like, can we have a conversation about like where you can put your crap? And I mean, we have those, like, we have to have those type of conversations on a weekly basis of, you know, kind of having those correcting conversations. She does it with me, I do it with her, but we both respect each other, where we're like, I can see how that would make you upset or frustrate you. Let's find another solution and maybe move it here. Or is there somebody else who has solved this problem? Because every relationship problem is not unique. Everybody has gone through the same problems. So there's somebody who's fixed this that we need to talk to. And that's the power of like GoBundance or listening to, you know, your podcast and stuff, is like you're listening to other people who have gone through things before you, and they've taken shots on it and they figured out what does and doesn't work, and it just makes things a lot easier. I'm really big proponent of learning from those ahead of you. Even this, you know, being the youngest brother of 3, it's like I'm learning, you know, oh, don't do that. You know, the oldest brother did that. I shouldn't, like, that really pisses off the parents. I'm not going to do that. Oh, my middle brother got away with that and they don't really care about that. I'll go do that. Right. So, you know, you learn from those ahead of you of what you can and can't do. And I think that's why there's so much value in a podcast like this and to listening to other people. But that's another thing, like reach out. If you're stuck somewhere and you don't know what to do, reach out to somebody who's an expert at how to start those conversations. Yeah. Because the worst thing that can happen is, you know, if you get off alignment, your kids are going to know.
Oh yeah. They're going to
impact your kids big time. Like they can feel your energy when you walk through that door. If you've had a good day or a bad day, it's going to impact them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know my oldest is very aware of it. When he can see it on me, he's like, you know, he'll ask me like, "Are you okay, Dad?" And he'll like rub my shoulder when he knows that I've had a rough day at whatever, you know. And it's one of those that if it was between my wife and I, he would like, that's going to cause even more. Like usually that's just a business thing. My wife and I aren't usually on that page because we communicate a lot with each other, and I'm the one in the relationship that will sense it and pull it out. Like, nope, we got to pull this out. You know, her immediate instinct is to kind of bury it. But we've been married for over 15 years, and it's one of those that, you know, she's very used to me just going, no, like, we're going to figure this out now because I know what happens when you don't. And by the end of it, she's very happy that we did, but her instinct is to just kind of hold it back. And my instinct is to pull that string. We got to figure this out. Like it's got to happen. So, you know, thankfully my kids don't necessarily, they see us have very good, healthy communication back and forth. Right. So when my son has to come over and rub my shoulder and say, "Daddy, is it okay?" You know, it's not because of something between me and my wife. It's usually something business related or, like I just just came back from Pennsylvania for a funeral, and he could tell just like before I left and when I came back, like I was not in the same headspace I normally am. And so he's like very aware of that. So imagine that times two if he's got the mom and the dad to look at, that they're going through it together. The kids are going to notice it. So solve the problem together, figure it out, and work through it to make sure, again, for the betterment of the kids, if nothing else. Like I still think that the priority between the husband and wife should be there. That should be above the kids. You should be wanting to solve the problem for the betterment of your relationship. But if you're not going to do it for the betterment of your relationship, which you absolutely should, then at least do it for the betterment of the kids, to figure it out and solve the problem and have the conversation.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah. We see the same thing in our house. Like we prioritize our relationship ahead of everything else. Because if the parents fall apart, the whole family falls apart.
Yeah. Yep. That's why my kids know that they're number 3 on the list. It goes God, my wife, and then them. Like they know. And I think it's important for them to hear that, know that, because that's where when they grow up and they get married, I want them to have that same priority. I want to put God first. I want to put my spouse second, and then my kids. Right. Because like, again, if the other two are out of whack, the kids are going to be at a loss anyways. Right. So make sure that you're prioritizing. It's the put the mask on yourself before helping others. Take care of that relationship first, or your kids are going to be in a world of hurt. So
yeah.
All right. So as we're, what other questions, thoughts, ideas, things that you want to talk about? We barely went into the business at all. We've been talking almost all about family today, but it's been a lot of fun. But what other things do you want to chat about? What are things that are on your brain in the business or dad world?
I mean, I'm just continually learning as much as I possibly can from, go-bros like you and other people. And I don't have all the answers. So, I'm a new dad. There's not like a book that, has all the answers that I need. It's more of like when things come up, where can I go to get answers and problem solve as soon as possible. And, I'm excited for the future. I think the future for our family, and as I kind of think of having a duty as the first wealthy person in my family ever, I have like a super duty to set myself up and my family up for long-term success, right? So when we're looking at the business thing, we do have like the Roth IRAs. We have the 529s. They're set on those. And those are, by the way, the two things that they're going to get. They're going to get their 529 and their Roth IRA. And the Roth should be worth about $250,000 by the time they get it. And the 529 should have about 200,000. That's what they're getting, right? That's a huge head start, right? Yeah. They're going to have no student debt, basically, like I did, and they're going to have something that they could, if they can hold on to it long enough, based on their personality profile, right? Some people cash them out and just blow them. That's all they're getting, right? They do not come back to the well. Like that's going to be their portfolio. That's the head start that we're going to gift to them. But other than that, that's what we feel would be appropriate for them, where they're getting a head start, but they're not getting everything given to them. And they're going to have to work for the rest of their life to be able to get to the next level. So that's the biggest concern I have is, if I want my kids to be able to stand on their own. I don't want them to be other people. Like I know people that I'm like, they're just daddy's rich money kids, and I believe that that's the case. They're actually just spoiled brats that have daddy's money. And that's my biggest concern, that someone would think that about our kids. So I want them to be able to stand on their own completely and make their own way and not be reliant upon me to solve their problems. So that's something that I constantly have front of mind, even on little things that we do on a day-to-day basis. I don't want to solve their problem. Like, I'm not going to, my kid knows how to get a bowl of cereal, right? Like, I'm not going to go get that for him. Like, she's like, I'm hungry, I want this. It's like, well, okay, well, what do you want? She's like, I want this. I was like, well, okay, go get it. Like, you don't need to ask for permission for those type of things. So letting them just take control of what they want and just go doing it, even on the little things, I think is a good step. But I'm always learning, and that's again one of my biggest concerns with my kids is that line of thinking. Just because I'm around it way too much, and I hate seeing it. And they're not fun people to talk to. They care about very different things. Right? I think it's just that's why I joined GoBundance, right? To be around guys that are first gen, just hustling it out, fighting every single day to get to the next level, and wants to grow as a human being and a man. That's what I want my kids to have, that level of hunger as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's, again, if you are the 5 people you're around most, so don't just tailor. Oh, hello again. Oh,
Hey.
hello again. Were you getting chased by the remote control car? Was he chasing you with the remote control car?
Do you want to watch something? Yeah.
Oh.
Come to me. Adam said Diana could watch.
Yeah. Have fun. So much for that. Daddy. All right. Well, on that happy note, all right.
On that note,
I'm going to go take care of her because she probably wants some lunch now. But John, it was absolutely awesome to get to know you a little bit, to be able to understand kind of who you are and learn about what you have going on. If folks are listening to this, maybe they're an agent down here in Florida, they want to reach out to you, they want to learn from you, maybe they have a house to sell or whatnot. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can. I'll send you my information. You can drop it in the show notes. But the best way is go to our website, movewithmomentum.com. That's Momentum Realty, and feel free to reach out. Now I see Adam, you got to go, my friend. So thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
No, I appreciate it. Way to end it. Hey.
Go enjoy your
thank
kiddo.
you so much, John. I appreciate your time. Boy, this is a fun way to close it out for everybody listening. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it. We'll see everybody on the next show.
Thank you so much for listening to the BizDad Podcast. We hope you found some value in your time here with us, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and share so you and your friends won't miss our upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Rumble, where we continue these discussions and share more valuable content. Be the dad you know you need to be and run your business in a way you're proud to share with your kids. Keep crushing it.